Hi everyone, my name is Charlie and today I don't have a book to share my thoughts on. I considered sharing the clip that I cut out of my favourites video in which I talked about the reasons that I didn't care for the passenger and yet I was going to include it on the favourites video, and ultimately it saw me decide not to. But I'm not going to do that. Instead, I think I want to talk about when life gets in the way of reading, because although I didn't read as much as I wanted to in May, I'm reticent to say that this has been some sort of reading slump. I was writing a lot in May for this project, and I think for me the issue is that as soon as I go into a new month, I immediately want to fill those first few days with tons and tons of reading. And so I'm looking at the fact that we are now 5 days into June and I haven't finished a single book. And so this is really a video for myself. This is very self-indulgent. This is Charlie talking to Charlie and discussing the reasons that we haven't been able to get anything read or as much read as we want to. So this new project came along and I was working very quickly on this, planning it, writing parts of it, getting characters down, character names, and it was all I could think about for 3 weeks. I just got back from a walk around the forest and the characters were speaking to me again, despite the fact that last week I said I wanted to use June to complete my edits on the second Ellis Valentine book. Anyway, last Friday I donated The Passenger to the charity shop, having not liked it, which means that I finished reading it on Thursday. So we are nearly 1 week without having finished reading a book, and I'm currently recording a reading vlog in which nothing has been read. However, last Friday at work I began reading The Crimson Petal and the White by Michelle Faber. I read the first chapter on Friday, and in my head I got this really weird idea that somehow I was going to be able to read an 825-page book in one weekend, that it was somehow going to enrapture me. And the font is so small. So whilst I have liked the novel enough to reach page 85, I don't know that I want to continue reading this book, because part of me just wants to finish reading something and I have that sensation of having finished something. So on Tuesday, yesterday, I decided to pick up The Sleeping Beauty by Elizabeth Taylor. I read a chapter. I read 14 pages. Because yesterday I decided to paint the bathroom. And it's just these things like painting the bathroom, the writing, work, television shows that I want to watch, Italian that I want to practice. I've not been able to have a conversation with Una Signora for over a month now due to how busy I have been. Indeed, I actually can't remember the last time we spoke on the phone. I met her on Saturday when she came into the shop. Years ago, I put up a video saying about how I'd become a slower reader, and I was fine with that. But there is still that part of me that nags and says, no, you haven't finished anything, which means you haven't accomplished anything. And I don't know where this sense of reading being an accomplishment came from. I don't know where this need to read a lot very quickly came from. I don't know whether it started because of BookTube. I don't know whether it started because I began documenting the number of books I read. I know pre-BookTube, I used to average out 70 books a year. And now I like to read at least 10 a month and get it to 120, which is 50 books more than it had been on average. Yet I am now more busy than I was when I was reading 70 books a year. So then I think, why won't I give myself some slack? Why won't I admit that I have a lot going on and I just don't have the time to read as much as I want to be reading? Yes, I started that alternative women's prize project and I would very much like to see that finished. I have 3 books left and I was reading more in the beginning of the year, but I think that everybody reads more during the winter months. Those months are the only months in which my sister ever picks up books anyway, because oftentimes you're just stuck in. Nighttime comes along and you're just reading. I don't know whether this is me saying that I want to head on to this book that is going to take me flaming 50,000 years to read. I don't know whether I'm trying to give myself permission to do that and read it slowly and completely throw out the TBR I made last week. I don't think it is that. I think it's just me wanting to just admit that when it comes to reading, when it comes to anything really, it's very difficult to set deadlines and to set goals for things that aren't necessarily work, that aren't like, when it comes to writing, let's say, and traditionally published writers, they have deadlines. People at work have deadlines and they have to work hard to get towards those deadlines. Reading is something that we do for fun. Reading is the nice hobby that we have on the side. Reading books is something that we go to either for solace or for kinship or just for a bit of adventure. I should not be thinking, oh, if I haven't read this 800-page novel in a week, then I failed. If I haven't read a certain number of books in a month, then I have failed at something. And this is something that I've talked about many times before. This is advice that I have given to people before. But I think that right now, this video and me just talking at the camera rambling is just a way for me to remind myself and to like drag myself back away from the edge of throwing all of my books away and saying that I've now got a 0 TBR. This is what happens when I don't DNF books as well. If I DNF The Passenger last week, then and I'd left May having read books that I'd enjoyed, then I would have more of an impetus to read. And that's what this video was originally going to be about. It was going to be me discussing how I like to DNF and how I don't want to continue reading a book when I'm not enjoying it. I don't like to talk disparagingly about a book, so more often than not, if I'm having a poor opinion of a book, I will stop reading it, unless it is for a project, such as when I was doing the BookTube Prize. Whenever I've had a bad impression of a book, it leaves me feeling a certain type of way. It leaves me feeling somewhat aggravated that I didn't better spend that time with something that I was enjoying. And now I feel like I'm not finding the book that has the electricity and verve that I want right off the page. The Crimson Petal and the White did have that with the U voice, but very quickly I feel like it might have entered into a voice that, while still strong, is somewhat literary and to be expected. And Elizabeth Taylor, as much as I enjoy her writing, maybe I'm just not in the mood for her yet. I need to think, like, I could look at my TBR, I could look at the books that I want to read in June and see if there's anything there that is screaming at me that it wants to be read right now. But currently I have Poems and Pints in 3.5 hours. I still have to make tea for everybody before that. Tomorrow I've got the writers group. It feels like I have no time to get any reading done. I just want to find a good book that I enjoy, that is perhaps not necessarily the most amazing book in the world that I think everybody should read, but I'd like to have another really amazing book. I like the feeling of feeling like I'm reading something great. I don't know that I said anything of any sense since I began this ramble. If you've got any suggestions about where to head reading wise, or what I should do when I'm feeling like this, because I'm pretty sure that I had the answer at some point, but sometimes your mind just gets away with you and it feels like I'm never going to read a good book again. I know that I'm going to have the time to read eventually. Next Tuesday is right there. Sunday is right there. Sunday and Tuesday, because Sunday I might need to finish decorating, but Tuesday definitely should be done with the decorating by then. Then please do send any suggestions, because until next time, that is all.